Okay, we want to talk about shift registers this morning. So one of the things we've talked about before is that for both while loops and for for loops, we can pass information back by creating a shift register. Okay, so I'm going to add a shift register here. So if I introduce a value here, okay, and let's just say I'm going to put down 10 here, and I'm going to, let's just say we're going to add some number to that, and let's just say we're going to add 5 to it, okay? So now what's going to happen is create an indicator for this. You can see here's our numeric indicator right here we just created, okay? Let me make this guy runnable. I need to create a control. There we go. All right, what doesn't it like? Oh, the end loop. I haven't told it how many times to run, so we're going to tell this to run, well, let's run 5 times, okay? So what we're going to do is tell this guy to execute, okay? And we're going to do whatever this says. Now, notice I have highlight execution turned on, so I'm looking at how it's picking up the values. So now I've got 25 in here, now it passed 25 back, now I have 30. So that each iteration of the loop, okay, I'm adding 5 to whatever the previous value was and passing it back, okay? Shift registers are real straightforward, okay? I can go in here and I can also look at previous elements. So I could drag this guy down and I can look at not only the iteration last one, but the one before that, etc. So let's just create a couple of indicators here just for fun. Create an indicator. So there's 1, 3, 4, 5. And we'll wire these into here so that we can see what's happening on these 5 iterations, okay? Now notice that it's broken, okay? What does it think is wrong? So let's get these moved around here so that we can see them. One more, there we go. What it doesn't like is that I haven't initialized all of the shift registers. I have to initialize all of them to something. So I'm going to initialize all these other ones to 0. Okay. There we go. So they're all initialized now. And we're going to execute this guy. And it's going to go slow, but that's okay. So we can see what our values are. Notice here that there's 15, now I'm at 10. Now 10 shifted down. Now 10 is going to end up down here in just a minute. Okay, because you can see that this is the iteration before, an iteration before, an iteration before. Real simple system. Okay. So let me just get rid of all of this and drop a new one down. Okay. And we can do shift registers on for loops, and we can have multiple shift registers. Oops, get out of there. I don't know what it's doing there. So we can have multiple shift registers on the same loop. That's certainly allowed, okay? Now you'll notice when we went to do this, we had to tell it how many times we wanted to do this, okay? There's also something called auto incrementation. Auto incrementation is a nice feature. And if you look here, I have this 1D array I've created, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no big deal. And what I want to do is I want to do something with each element of this array. Let's just say that I want to multiply each one by 100, okay? So I'm going to say I want to multiply each one by 100, and I'm going to drag this guy in here and draw a line. Now notice that it gave me this open bracket. The open bracket tells me that it's going to give me one element for each iteration of the loop, and I don't have to wire the end because it's going to wire it for me by telling me how many I have. Okay, so here we go. There, I'm going to tell it to output, and I'm going to create an indicator right here so that we can see what the result is. And we're going to execute this. And you can see I got 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. I got each of these multiplied by 100. I didn't wire the end because I didn't have to. Okay. So obviously I have an array. See, I got a nice fat line, so I got an array coming in. Okay. And I have a single element coming out. Now, in addition to single element or one-dimensional arrays, we can also work with multiple dimension arrays. Okay. So let's get rid of this one, for instance. And now what we're going to do is to wire in this two-dimensional array. Notice that my two-dimensional array, I've got two sets of elements, 1 through 6 and 10 through 60. Okay. And in this case, it broke my output. And why did it break my output? Because this is a two-dimensional array. So therefore, I'm going to execute this, and I'm going to get one dimension of this. So in other words, the first pass, it's going to give me all of these. The second pass, it's going to give me all of these. Okay? And we need to make this into a two-dimensional so that we can see what's happening here. Make him a little bit wider. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So now when I execute this guy, you can see I get 100s, and then here's my second one is like that. Now, notice that I'm doing array math here. If I have to take each individual element, okay, I can nest these for loops like this, and then I can wire this one in to there, and I can wire, and we're going to multiply by, I said 100, right? All right, so we're going to multiply each one by 100. So there's my input, and there's my output, and there's my output there. And now I'm doing this on every element. So this one tells me do this for every row. Oops. This one says do this for every element. Okay. What would happen if this were a three-dimensional array? I can do that. I can make him 3 dimensions. Okay. Now I get a two-dimensional array here. So now all of a sudden I'm not doing it for everything. So I need to put all of this inside of a loop. So now I'm doing do this for every page, do this for every row, do this for every element. Okay. Make sense? Auto incrementation, very handy tool.